list of great guests, but we begin with a legal victory for former President Donald Trump. A New York judge is delaying the former president's sentencing in his criminal hush money trial after the election to November 26. Trump was convicted in May of 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Trump was also in court today in a separate case in New York. His lawyers are trying to overturn that verdict. Now, that found him liable for sexual abuse and slander against former columnist E. Jean Carroll. Now, the jury awarded her $5 million. Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored tonight, Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld from Houston Community College. So your thoughts on the judge delaying the sentencing until after the election?
This is very par for the course in the sense that, just like the FBI has typically reserved any sort of political investigations until after elections, this is standard where you don't want to influence the election or offer any opportunity for individuals to say this verdict, this conclusion is solely related to political partisanship. That is, it's New York court, Democratic leaning. We don't want any partisanship to influence that ruling. But Judge Marchand is very savvy in acknowledging the reality that this is conviction. And so sentencing is not as big a deal as we might think when you think, well, are you getting life sentence, death sentence, 20 years? It is relevant in the sense of, is this one more opportunity for individuals to say partisanship is guiding these partisan results?
Now, for those who say, or this judge who said, I don't want people to think I'm being partisan or political in this, and so I'm delaying this sentencing. For the average person, they wouldn't delay this sentencing. So it helps President Trump.
Arguably, no.
No,
at the end of the day, this is much like Hunter Biden. If he has not been convicted,
if he has not been convicted before the if he has been convicted and sentenced before the election, people would say, well, what the hell are we voting on? You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, the conviction still stands, which means that people can still vote if they choose to on guilt
in theory,
or innocence.
Dr. von Biedenfeld, when you take a look at it, and here is someone who has been sentenced to prison or probation or parole, whatever it may be. And I'm not saying that's what will happen, but if that happens, then that will sway some voters.
It absolutely will. But this is the same principle that the FBI uses. So when we think about the Federal Bureau of Investigation and their principles on not interfering with elections, this is very pragmatic. And the idea is we've got a conviction, so we acknowledge that this individual is guilty. If those voters who want to look at this are swayed by that, fantastic. But if they're not, we want to also not put this individual in prison, Martin Luther King Jr. style, which could go either way. Because MLK, as we know, now has a holiday.
And of course, when we talk about President Trump, he considered this a victory, right?
Absolutely.
He and his defense attorneys. And
at the end of the day, this is going to be sort of skewed in the sense of we are not guilty because they're too afraid to sentence us. But pragmatically, the reality is the legal aspect is you've been convicted. So it's a tricky balance, but the judge is saying the judiciary does not control, as we've talked about before, the power of the purse, does not control any military or policing powers. They only control the reputational aspects and the influence of their sort of integrity. And so the judiciary is maintaining their integrity by saying, no, we're only convicting him, but we're not going to convict him.
All right, Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld from Houston Community College, thank you for joining us on a Friday night, sir.
Yes.
Still to come here on The Factor Uncensored, looking ahead to Tuesday, September 10th, former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris Kamala Harris will share a stage. They're going to come after me for that. In their first ever presidential debate, Dr. von Biedenfeld will be back that same night. Will you? Are you really ready to commit?
I'm ready.
For a special edition of The Factor, we'll bring you your post-debate coverage and breakdown of all the biggest moments here on The Factor Uncensored.